Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Loretta Holmes and Carolyn Colvard.
It was July 22nd, 1967. Exactly 1 month to the day of my 17th birthday. My best friend and I, Carolyn Calloway, we were going to work. See, we worked after school from 3 to 11:30. If anybody remember Ingleside Nursing Home, it was on Woodward and Claremont. On our way to work, we ran into a friend, and he said, "I'm inviting you to a birthday party. It's on 12th and Claremont." We said, "Okay, we'll be over there when we get off of work." So I told my sister, and she said, "Sure, Mike's."
I'm Carolyn Colvard, and I was 19 years old. I had just turned 19 June 8th. My sister asked me to meet her at a club on Claremont, between Claremont and Ackerson. I was on my way that evening to the Swinging Time Review, if anybody know what that was. It was a young man named Robin Seymour that gave a show 5 days a week on TV, and it was a dance show. I was really excited about going. It was at the Fox Theater. So I went, caught the bus down there, had a good time, enjoyed all the music. But the only thing I remember about that evening was David Ruffin. He came out with big glasses on. He had a natural and some swim trunks on. And his arm was broke. And that's all I can really tell you about that evening. When we left, me and a friend, we caught the bus back on 12th, we caught the 12th Street bus down to 12th Street in Claremont. We got off and walked down to Ackerson and went inside this building called the club. And when we went up the steps, they were steep. We got up to the top, a couple of doors were closed, and one door was open. And we went in, and it was a mahogany bar. It was tables and chairs, it was people dancing, and it was a pool table at the other end. So I went to the bar, got me a Coke, and sat down and started fraternizing with everybody else and having fun. And sister?
So Carolyn and I, we got to the club probably about 11:45, maybe 12 o'clock. And when we got there, my sister was there. I remember when we first got there and went in, the stairs were so steep. And when we got up, you can see all these rooms, but the doors were closed. But you know, people were behind them because you heard music, you heard talking. And to the left, it was a lady and man standing at the door, a big pool table, as my sister said, a bar, and then there were tables and chairs. Everybody was dancing. I don't know who remembered the cool jerk, who remembered the pimp jerk, but they were dancing, having fun, and we were having fun. We sat there, we had a Coke with my sister. About, I say about 2:30, 2:45, I told Carolyn, I said, "We gotta go to work tomorrow, we gotta get out of here." At that time, you can walk the streets. 12th Street was like 24/7, like Las Vegas Strip. Everybody was there. You ran into the hot sausage man. You ran into the girls of the night and the men. We started down the steps. When we started down the steps, we maybe got down 3 or 4 steps. Oh God, a sludge hammer came through the door. The door is made out of wood and glass. And we turned around real fast and we ran back up the stairs. We didn't know what to do. We ran over to the table and I told my sister, but we didn't know what to do. We didn't know whether to get on the table, get under the table, or what. We had no idea. Next thing you know, Let me tell you this. When the first thing we saw when they broke the door was this big white face. He had on a white shirt and a tie. So we didn't think about police. I don't know what we thought about because he didn't have on a police uniform. So I needed to tell you that. But afterwards, we kept hearing knocking, knocking, knocking. And later we found out that they were nail shutting all the doors, so it could be one way in, one way out. And then they told us to get in the line. Sister.
Well, all I can remember was a lot of disturbance, and I wasn't scared. I was 19, but I was startled. And I looked around, and I seen the police coming up. They were lining us up on the side, and I seen a couple of young men go to the back. But at that same time, something came through the window. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a smoke bomb. I didn't know what it could be. I didn't even know if it was tear gas or what, but when it came through the window, it was a lot of smoke. And my eyes didn't tear up, so I knew it wasn't a tear gas. So I seen the police, and all of them were white. They had on blue uniforms, and maybe 2 of them had on suits, as my sister said. And they told us to get up and make a single file so we can go down the steps. And we started down the stairs. And my sister?
So we started down the stairs. And the crazy part was my sister and I, we weren't together anymore. It was Carolyn and I. And we got to the end of the stairs and went outside. You could see 4 to 5 paddy wagons. It was so crowded. It was like somebody got on a bullhorn and said, "It's a party over here." People were on top of the buildings. They was on cars. They were in the street. They were yelling everything. Don't ask me what they were yelling because I honestly don't know. All I know was they was getting ready to put us in a paddy wagon, something I'd never been in, but I knew it was little. They put us in a paddy wagon, and I started hyperventilating. I didn't know what hyperventilating was then. I knew I couldn't breathe. And this lady slapped the stew out of me. Like, girl, get it together. Sister.
When I got to the bottom of the steps, I looked and I heard people screaming. "Why are you knocking down the doors? Why are you tearing up our blind pigs, our after-hour clubs? We don't come to your neighborhood. Why are you doing that?" And the people were screaming from Claremont all the way down to Ackerson, just on one side of the street. That's all I could see. But I had another issue. My boyfriend lived on 12th and Claremont. And I didn't want his family to see me. His grandmother, his father, his mother, and his sister and brothers. And he was in the Army. At that time, the Vietnam War was going on. And also, he was on special assignment in northern Italy. And I just couldn't have that. We had a baby together. So my sister, she said, we were all put in different paddy wagons. I got in, all I can remember, it was hot, and I had a chance to sit down on the side on a little bench. Sister?
It was so hot in there. Y'all know how hot it is outside now? Well, just imagine it being that hot at 3 o'clock in the morning in a little paddy wagon. The crazy part was we lived on Elmhurst and Linwood, and they took us down Elmhurst and Linwood. Right past our house. I just want to say, can you please let me out here? It was crazy. We got to the police station. They must have took the men before they took us, because when we got there, it was so wow. You could see the men, they had off their shirts. Remember how hot it was. They had do-rags on, and they pushed all the women into one cell. One toilet, one bench. And we stayed there. And we stayed there until they said, all those who have a ticket or warrant will not be leaving. Well, we were minors, so we knew we were leaving. So my sister asked,
once we left out of that particular cell with bars, they asked us to go in a room. It had to be around 6 o'clock in the morning. They said, we're going to let you call your parents. And so the phones, you know, naturally there was no cell phones. It was just a regular dial phone. I dialed the phone and called my daddy. Daddy, he answered the phone, hello? Daddy, we in jail, me and Loretta. And we on our way home. They just let us out. So my middle name is Denise. He said, Denise, that's all right. I knew you stayed out all night. Just come home. So it was at least 40 of us living the same way. We lived right there on Elmhurst and Linwood. And some people lived toward Chicago. Some people lived toward Clemens. And some lived on Richton. And it was just, you know, a bunch of us young people walking together. And so we got home, and sister?
first she said, my daddy said in a low voice, but he didn't, because the whole precinct heard him say, what? See, my father, it's 10 of us. And my dad was the type of dad that until the last kid get in the house, he wouldn't go to sleep. And when she told him we were in jail, and he said, what? Y'all just come on home. And we did. We went home, and we told Daddy what was going on, and we went on to bed. Well, Carolyn and I had to get up the next day, and we had to go to work. So when we got up, Daddy said, you know that place y'all was in started the riot. Well, heck, we didn't know what a riot was. We said, okay. We went on to work. We walked up on Woodward and Claremont. I think yeah.
Well, I stayed in the bed till 2:30 in the afternoon. I was tired from being in jail. Never had been there before. So when I got up, I walked through the dining room to the living room, and the TV was on, and I seen, you know, chaos. It just looked like World War III. They was talking about Detroit. I was just shaking my head. And I seen my father out there on the front porch, and I went outside, and I was just looking at the neighborhood and the different people coming up and down the street. It was mostly men. One man had a big couch just pushing it down the block. Another man had a living room chair on top of his head, slowly jogging with the chair on top of his head. And the most peculiar thing was a man had about 10 slabs of bacon on his shoulder, walking with it, just walking. I said, Daddy, where that man going with all that bacon? He said, I don't know, but I'm sure he don't have air conditioning, and I'm sure he don't have a freezer. I said, so where is he gonna put that bacon? He said, in the basement, and you know who's gonna eat it then.
So Carolyn and I, we went on to work. And when we got to work, all of a sudden we're noticing what's going on, because, I mean, you could smell smoke. You could hear police cars. You could hear fire trucks. And our manager came and said, you ladies need to spend the night. Well, who's going to spend the night in the nursing home, right? We're 17 years old. We said, no, we're going home. So we started walking home. We walked down 12th. We walked down Linwood. People was everywhere. Now, I never seen anyone break a window, but I did see a lot of looters. I never seen anyone set anything on fire, but we saw a lot of fires going on. People were everywhere. It was just chaos. One thing I want you to understand is 12th Street had a lot of businesses on it, a lot of black businesses on it, a lot of Jewish businesses on it. See, we stayed right next door to a Jewish synagogue, so our neighborhoods were blacks and Jewish people. So it wasn't a race riot. When we were on our way home, we saw black people looting and we saw white people looting. We saw black people guarding their businesses and we saw white people guarding their businesses. If anybody remember on 12th Street, it was Dr. Pope and it was Dr. Perkins. And then there was grocery stores and there were jewelry stores, and there were, you name it, they had it. So it wasn't a race riot by any means. When we got halfway home, we stopped and we stood on the corner with our friends. Until I guess after a while we said, okay, let's go home. I was 17. I thought I'd wake up the next day and it'll be over with and everything be back to normal and won't be anything burned up. It'd just be another day. But it didn't happen like that. By the third day of the riot, they called in the troops. And the troops was put on Central Field, if anyone know where Central High is. There were so many of them. And at night, they would shoot out the street lights and drive their tanks down the streets. And I remember one time my dad had us stand between the bathroom and the bedrooms because all you could hear is pop, 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 shooting. It was, I don't know if it was a dream or not, because after that I didn't think about it anymore. I thought I was going to wake up and it was going to be all over. And it wasn't. Sister.
Well, only thing I can remember, excuse me, it's a little chilly to me. The only thing I can really remember is the lights being out at nighttime and not having air conditioning or fans. It was pretty hot. And I don't know if the lights was cut off by the government or they just told us to cut the lights off because it was curfews. And that right there was scary enough, just for anybody, any child or any young adult, but we dealt with it. And during the daytime, I just was curious about the troops. They was right behind our house. We lived on Elmhurst, and Central High School was on Tuxedo, right there between Linwood and Larcell. So I walked around there to see what was going on and talked to the troops, white and black. And they was young as we were. And I asked them, I said, do you want to be here? You know, do you want to hurt somebody or anything? And they said, no, we don't want to be here, period. This is not what we want to do. But we're the National Guard, and we have to do what the protocol called for. And we're here. And I remember talking to them for a while and, you know, just getting a feel of what did they really feel. And my sister, she seen a little more than I did because she was everywhere and a little more street than I was.
The Lord is my shepherd. I didn't go talk to the troops. But what I did was, we would go and we'll hang out with our friends because at a certain time in the day, at night, you have to be in the house. So I remember we were on Burlingame in Linwood, and there was a Maz. I think it's still over there, as a matter of fact, Maz number 1, student restaurant. And who was on the corner but Muhammad Ali? He wasn't really popular then because he had just changed his name over, but he was just as fine as he was fine, for real. He was fine. And he was talking real low. He was like, y'all need to get off the street, get off the corner. Y'all see those troops over there? Go home. No, we didn't go home, but we did stay on the corner talking to him. Another day, during the same time, I was up on Dexter. Dexter and Burlingame. It was the Dexter show, for those that remember. Who was on top of the Dexter show? H. Rap Brown. It was so many people on Dexter. I don't know what he was saying. I was just there. I was just there. I have no idea what he was saying. I knew it was something important, though. In '67, during this period, now let me tell you about, we didn't talk about '67. I went to Brady Elementary School. And in the 6th grade, we had to learn the Gettysburg Address. We had to learn it in order to pass to the 7th grade. And for learning it, we got a Baby Ruth candy bar. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We learned that. When I was in 11th grade, Central had a Black History class, a real Black History class. And we had to learn or read, or learn and read, the Willie Lynch letter. Anybody familiar? Yeah. And I wrote this down because when I get into it, I get a little, so I just said, I'll just do a couple of them so you know what the Willie Lynch letter is. The Making of a Slave by Willie Lynch. Let me tell you who Willie Lynch was. He was a slave owner in the Caribbean. And he went to Jamestown, Virginia in 1712 to teach the slave owners how to make a slave. Because they didn't understand, because slaves were rebelling. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of things that he said, how to make a slave. He said, when breaking a nigger, you break him down like a horse. You break his mind and you break his spirit, but don't break his body because you got to work. He said you put the darker ones against the lighter ones, even if they're in the same family. He said you beat the nigger man inches from death, but don't kill him. But I want you to do it in front of the nigger women and the nigger children. That shows the weakness in the nigger man. He said, rape the nigger women in front of the nigger men and the children. That shows she's your property. The niggers are not allowed to read, write, or socialize. If caught, hang the niggers from the tree, then set them on fire in front of all the niggers. They asked me how did I feel about this, because he said that this rule would last from 100 to 400 years. How I feel about it?
Hurry up.
400 years is over.
Loretta Holmes Carolyn Denise Colvard. Woo. Denise, is there anything that you want to say in close?
Well, I did, but
Can this reach? We want you to say it. We can hear you. Okay.
in close, I would like to say I would like opportunity to be for everyone. And I would like Detroit to be better as well as the world. I would like us to have opportunities for jobs, housing, good health, and I would like us all to come together and stop hating each other. I have a white grandfather and a black. And if everybody look in their family, they'll find out that we are all one. And we should all stop this unnecessariness, stick together, and all of us know that in our families, you'll find different races from every nationality. And we're all from the human race.
Carolyn Denise Colvard, Loretta Holmes